You're listening to Rstories, a storytelling podcast that elevates the lived experiences of Chicago's migrant and refugee communities. I'm Chris Shue, and along with my co-host Ali Toro, we'll share candid conversations with the inspiring individuals and advocates at the forefront of key issues affecting these communities, and we'll have plenty of fun along the way. Let's get started.
Welcome to our stories. I am Ali Taro with my friend and co-host Chris Shue, and we are very excited to host Carlos Julio Gonzalez Castro here today, who is from Venezuela, and we are very excited to hear his story.
Welcome, Carlos.
Hey, welcome. Thank you for having me here, and hope it works out.
It'll be great. Carlos, we'd love to just start by learning a little bit more about you.
Okay.
Ali introduced you as from Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get too far into the weeds, how about you just tell us a little bit about where you're from, how long you've been in the States?
Okay. So I was born in Venezuela. I've lived most of my life in Venezuela. I'm 26 years old. I moved to the U.S. when I was 24. I was born in a small island next to Trinidad and Tobago. It's a small Caribbean island called Margarita. That's where I studied my high school. That's where I did most of my life. That's where my grandparents are living right now. That's most of my aunts. We had a big family. We were like 23 cousins together in that small island. So Christmas and summer would be like a huge get together. So I studied there, and then I moved to Caracas, the capital of Venezuela, for my career. That's where I studied accounting and administration in a private university where I got a scholarship. Well, growing up in Margarita, I played a bit of basketball. I liked chess, and that's where I learned English as well, and that's how I can speak like this right now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So you grew up on a Caribbean island.
Yes.
Wow. Which, my geography fails me now because I would not have associated Venezuela with Caribbean islands. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. But and I know we'll get into sort of your journey once you moved into the capital and your studies and so on. But as we learn a little bit more about your story, just help us understand what life was like. You spoke about your grandparents, your large extended family, back in Margarita.
Margarita, yes, like the
Tell us-
drink.
Yes, or the pizza, depending on who you
Exactly.
ask. Just give us a picture of what life was like as a youngster and what it was like back home.
Okay, so let's see. I would go to school Monday to Friday. I would then go to basketball practices some days of the week. Mom would be at home. I remember because mom and dad, they're both doctors. That went he went all in. He's a surgeon, a traumatologist. I think that's how you say it. Mom, the first time I think it was in 2004. We are 5 brothers. My youngest brother wasn't alive yet. He wasn't born yet. The first New Year's Eve that we spent because my dad became a doctor, so he had to take emergencies. So sometimes they would call him like, "Hey, we have this patient. You have to go now and do the surgery." And that my mom would also wanted to do that as well, but she remembered and she said, "I'm not doing this. I'm taking a lighter specialization and this medicine career that I want to pursue." Because one Christmas we spent the 4 of us, not the 5 of us. My youngest brother wasn't alive yet, but the 4 of us we spent the Christmas and New Year's Eve with our grandparents. So my mom said, you know what? I am not gonna do this again. I think she wanted. I don't really remember right now. There was one of those talks with mom. So she said, you know what? I want to be able to be with my kids most of the time. So I guess when you live in a Latino family, the value of the family, the I would say it's not that direct. It would be like an indirect support, but the value of the family, la familia, like we are together, that's heavy for a Latino family. So my mom said like this is important. I must be with my kids. The family must be together on Christmas, and that is something that I learned to value more. Or is something that I mean, I spent a couple of years in the U.S., of course, and you can feel the contrast of, well, the family values, for example. But well, that's like the family side. Um, but life was great. I would say we would enjoy our holidays in Venezuela. I mean, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but in Latin American, I would say we take our holidays off, right? And that's a great thing. I mean, you get to like enjoy life. You work where you have to work, but you do enjoy life and make a lot of friends. Um, but yeah, that would be like my first approach.
So, Carlos, tell me more about the beauty of your country. The lifestyle over there. Because I'm asking you, I'm from Iran. Okay, I'm from Iran, and both countries' governments are against the U.S.
Hmm.
And when I arrived here as a refugee, I realized people have a wrong picture of my country and my culture in their minds. Probably, stereotypes or implicit biases, probably because of the politics and media. But yeah, let us know about your beautiful country and share that people have normal life over there as well.
Yeah, I mean, Venezuela is beautiful. Venezuela is in the tropics, next to Colombia, north of Brazil. So we don't really have seasons there. There's no snow. It never snows there. It's either like dry season or rain season. So, and I was in an island, so we would go every weekend, almost every weekend to the beach. People are really nice there. You and I think that's a valuable thing. Uh, yeah, we do have a yeah. I get the concept that a lot of people can have from Venezuela, like Venezuela this Venezuela, because I do get that the bad things or are more noisy. They generate more sound that the normal good things. That okay, well, you're expected to have that, so that doesn't make sound. The thing that makes sound are the bad things, but those things are also important. I would say the positive things. I can talk in past because the issues that made me take the decision to leave Venezuela are recent. I've only been here a couple years, and I would say the Venezuelan migrant affluence, or yeah, like people from Venezuela trying to migrate to the United States is a recent situation. Uh, but yeah, we really had a great life. I mean, it was the weather was nice. I mean, we didn't have the issue of like well spending money in heaters, or I mean that's money that you save from an economy. And I would say uh, if you go to Venezuela, you really can make friends so fast. It is easy to make friends. And recently, I mean, Venezuela is an oil country. So in the 1960s, 1970s, that's where my parents lived, that's where my grandparents lived. A lot of people moved to Venezuela. I mean, it was like the country, in that moment, it was the Latin American country of the opportunity. So it is common to, I mean, you would see Italians, people from Europe, even Americans moving to Venezuela because there was a big opportunity. Most of them were naturally petroleum
Right.
engineers, people related to the oil industry, or but also the tourism industry because it's beautiful. We have beautiful. We have the highest. That's something that if there are Venezuelan people looking at me, they're like, okay, he's gonna go with that one. Yeah, we have the tallest drop of water called the Salto Angel. So it's a big waterfall. I don't really remember how tall it is, like 300 meters. I still struggle with feet and pounds. And
I know many Iranians are there as well. There is some Persian restaurants. I know. So the Chris, it was very interesting. Carlos mentioned that you can make friends over there easily, the same as Iran. So one thing, it's one of my culture shock in this country. It's very hard to make friends here. So maybe you can laugh, you can drink, you can go out with some people, but they don't call each other friends. After years, hanging out with certain people, I'm still introduce my colleague, my neighbor, oh, Ali from Iran. So yeah, you tell us about why is that so difficult to make friends here.
Yeah. That's just a personal problem, Ali. I have a bunch of friends. I'm joking. I'm joking. No, it's you hit the nail on the head. That is a very stark contrast between American culture and cultures you experience across the globe. One of the things that I think has plagued American culture is hyper independence, right?
Mhm.
That we strive to self-sufficiency, and self-sufficiency is a privilege, really, and it comes at a really severe cost when you start to play it out. And I think what we're reminded of in Persian culture and Venezuelan and Latin cultures is the concept of interdependence, and that this community is how we exist, right? In America, friends are like an accessory. It's like, I need someone to golf with. Who am I going to call? I need someone to go to a wedding with. I don't want to be the solo there, or go have coffee or so on. And it's more of an accessory than it is the essential thing of community and interdependence. And I think that's just where Americans, we need to humble ourselves and have a bit of a more global view and say, how do we orient ourselves that is more rooted in community and less focused on hyper independence and success?
Right.
Correct.
So I think you have a lot to teach us, and I've enjoyed it, right? I've enjoyed it getting to know both of you and calling you both friends. That it is a little bit foreign, no pun intended, for people to say, I want to be your friend, not because I want to get a job from you or I want you to help me with business or X, Y, or Z. No, I just care about you.
Right.
Correct. No, that's interesting because that hyper independency that you said, I would say that is one of the main motivations that makes people take the decision from outside the U.S. to move to the U.S. They say, I want that. Maybe they see it as in a superficial way, like, oh, this is what I want. I mean, they say, right, that you're looking, or your body or your soul is looking for that thing that you're lacking. So you say, like, well, I have this already. I have a lot of cussing. I have a lot of family. So it's not like you get tired of that. Well, I mean, you see that other aspect. I am attracted to that. But yes, I do feel. I mean, in my short time that I have in the U.S., yeah, the concept of friendship is, the word is not different, but they live the friendship in a different way. Because yeah, when you live in a world, I mean, in a country, again, that aims to that hyper independency, I get that you forget that other aspect, that human aspect that we all have deep in our hearts. I mean, we want to be valued by what we are, what we actually are. And I get that. I think I spoke with this to you once, that I feel like the friendship. I don't want to be theoretic here, but that's something that I've learned from my personal life, that the real friends that you end up making is those that you exchange intimacy. Intimacy is like sharing what you really think about this, being vulnerable to the other. And I think that's important. People are, when you live in a, that's maybe a point of view that I have. When you live in a society that's hyper independent, like, I am valuable, I am able to do whatever, I mean, anything everything by myself. Why do I need you? If I'm needing, I mean, I only looking to spend time with you because you're giving me this X Y benefit. So I think that's like the point. When you live in a society like that, you don't really value that other aspect of a real friendship. I mean, you don't want to be vulnerable to the other. That's the thing. I mean, I don't want the other to be able to harm me, and I think that's the friendship. I mean, you gotta be able to like harm me or like yeah, like open my soul so you can like. But because you love me by the way I am, you love me how I am. You're not doing that.
It's well said. And I want to ask a question of both you, Carlos, and
Hmm.
Ali, and that's on this. There is a certain amount of vulnerability inherent in true friendship, and um, us um, when English is our first language, intimacy is something that, right, like Americans will have a hard time with the connotation of intimacy. So I love that you use that word because it's a beautiful word, right?
Right.
And they just the same way they have they get weirded out when I tell some of my friends I love you. Like that's not I'm in love with you, but it's right. And there's these nuances. So I want to ask a question of
Hmm.
both of you, and that is about right being. Think back to your arrival in country or your sort of adjustments as you've gotten here. If you could give us some advice as Americans, you yourself as Americans, to say, hey, here's how you can maybe lean a little bit more into true friendship and truly be a welcoming community, an inclusive community, whatever language we want to use. What advice would you give of like, here's something that, I really wish would be more prevalent in American culture? Ali, we'll start with you.
One of them, I would like to answer that question. One of the culture shock I got here is while we are advertising, okay, we don't ask each other's beliefs. Okay, so privacy is very important here. People do not judge each other here. While I have a different experience. Okay, I have a different experience. People literally judge. People, ask about my beliefs, my questions. Okay, so it's better to practice our values in this country, really. So, those are, human rights values. Those are democratic values, and we fight for it, even in our countries. So we are inspired by these words. And when we arrive here, like, you see a different reality, you know let me give an example. If you go to Iran now, because of the culture, the system, you definitely get culture shock. You feel all men are from the LGBTQ community over there. You know why? Because men hug each other over there, they kiss each other culturally, totally fine. Okay? Really, they hold their hands, friends. They hold their hands, okay, walk on the streets. Hey, okay, Chris, come with me. Okay, just 10 minutes walking hand to hand. So,
Mm.
but, and, you know, in some aspect, I feel Iranians judge others less than Americans,
Hmm.
but here in this country, constantly I have to watch myself. I have to watch myself because I'm judged by others, and if I have a little mistake or little hiccup, okay, they can blow people's mind. Oh, that person, that Iranian, that from Islamic country did that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
yeah. How about you, Carlos?
Okay, I would say, um, just I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but be yourself. That would be like my recommendation because there's always someone out there that really is like you or likes the way you think. Um, I would say Americans or yeah, the American society, I would say, is highly influenced by media. Like, this is happening, this is what this person says. That if you do like a deeper analysis, is like, why are we listening to these people, right? I mean, what are they bringing us as a society? What values are we incentivizing? um and I think there's a lot of people that deep in their hearts, they don't, it's not like they don't share that, they partially share that. Nothing, but I know if I say this, if I say that, well, this is how I think, this is how I am. I don't really share this or that, or I consider myself a member of this movement, of this community, but I just don't share like the whole concept, the whole mission, the whole vision. And I think that would be my recommendation. Like, just be yourself. I mean, okay, I like this aspect, this X or Y aspect of this movement, this idea, this concept that this person that is has a power to influence brings to the table, but I just don't like this other aspect. And I feel like you have to know that there's a lot of people that are thinking like you, and I think that's a positive thing. And that comes, I mean, that connects with what we just spoke to, like being vulnerable. Like, okay, I don't like this. Oh, I don't like this. You know, oh, so now we have something in common, and that build that how do you say, like set roots. I think that's the word. I don't know, like put roots uh to a real friendship.
Hmm.
Beautiful. Yeah, the finding the commonality is the key. Because but in this country, I don't want to generalize. It's just my it's my personal experience. Okay. So still after, I've been living here for 12 years, still after 12 years, people are trying to find the boundaries and not the commonalities. Okay, so even ask me still after 12 years, they ask me, do you eat pork? Okay, do you drink? Okay, do you go to mosque? Okay, do you pray? So still after, why that someone did something in European countries. So I
Right.
don't know, but so it tells me people constantly they are assessing or testing their boundaries with me instead of being interested, learning about me, my culture, or find a share experience. Yeah.
For the record, Ali, I don't know if I was trying to find a boundary or commonality. These might be the same thing. When I was trying to understand if you knew who Fergie was and the song My Hump. I promise it was commonality. I wasn't trying to find a boundary.
Yeah.
Um, one of my favorite things about our friendship, Ali, is, and one of the things that enriches my life more than most people know is, it's great when you're around multilingual environments, and some of it has you learn a lot of things through translation, right? Different ways to think about things. But another thing that's really fun is when someone uses a word that English speakers don't generally use. And in this case, Ali was talking about a rough week, and he had told us that the week was humpy. And I was like, that is amazing. I'm going to start using that. And it made me think of the song My Humps by Fergie. And that was, it was commonality, I promise. I promise.
It was supposed to be bumpy.
It was perfect. Well, we spent some time talking about the importance of friendship, and I don't sort of minimize the fact that these conversations are only possible because those roots of friendship that you spoke to, Carlos, are there. And so thank you both for that. And Carlos, I would love to hear a little bit about sort of your journey. We talked about sort of home and what life was like, and your strength of your family and all those beautiful attributes.
Mm-hmm.
But if you wouldn't mind, sort of walk us through the journey of what is sort of a beautiful life and experience, and what sort of led you to sort of make the decision to leave Venezuela and come here.
Okay. So the moment I decided to move to the United States, I wasn't directly looking for it. I mean, the reason when you say like I'm escaping from Venezuela is because you can't be here, so you gotta be in other place. Um, I mean that word escape, I would say like it's not like you're seeking this, you're just avoiding this, right? So when I decided to move to Venezuela, well, from Venezuela to the United States, well, it was because yeah, life. There is a point. I do value the love to your country, the patriotism, the nationalism, or however you want to call it. But there is a point in which you gotta value your life. I mean, there's a point there, and also like, how am I going to be more useful? I would say too. I mean, to life or to yourself. I mean, there's a point that okay, you're being in this country doesn't make me happy. For I mean, doesn't make me happy. Doesn't make me useful. Doesn't make me the person that I want to be. So you see, you visualize the United States as I mean, and you follow the values that the as you know, like freedom, independence. See that what we were talking earlier. Like, okay, I think that is what I want right now. So the journey, I would say, I mean, I am Venezuelan. I am Carlos. I am. This is like my individual experience, but I know that there's a lot of Venezuelan people that have a different. They had a different journey compared to what I had. Mom and dad, um, when we were younger, they smartly, I would say, took the decision to get us a tourist visa to the United States, so we could travel to the United States um, legally, without. Um, so that's how I could get to the United States without any issue. I did not. I did not like a lot of Venezuelan friends that I know. They had to travel via bus through Colombia, go through El Darién, that's a really dense forest that you gotta go
Hmm.
through walking for 3 days. Then you go through Central America. You gotta deal with yeah, the word is like you got to deal with corrupted military, corrupted people that they want to get a bribe in order to let you go through. And you get to Mexico and cross the border, and then you got to deal with that. So I didn't deal with that, but I live with a lot of people that dealt with that, family members that dealt with that, and I know you can feel by the way they express, by the way, well, yeah, the way they change their tone of voice when they're talking about that, that it is an adventure um and it's challenging. But in my case, I would say, I mean, it is slightly different. But once you get to the United States, we're all in an equal situation. We get here, and it feel there's a I would say there's a feeling of a bit of loneliness. I mean, you feel like okay, and you feel like you have nothing, but not nothing, not like physically you have nothing. Like I have nothing on my pockets. I don't have money. I don't have. That is partially true, but also like you feel you have nothing because of what you left behind, the family, your country, the way you like. Because I would say when you're born in X or Y country, when you're born in Venezuela, you grow up, you go to school, and then you start to like plan your life on that. Like okay, in 5 years, I want to study in this university. Then I'm gonna work for this company. That oh, I love this country. I love this company in my country. Then I want to have my kids, and we're gonna go to Playa Huacuco, which is my favorite beach in Margarita. I love that beach. So you plan your life. You and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, this is no longer my life. Like so your life changes, and it's like starting from zero. So like, okay, now I have to. This is where I gotta start. This would be, I would say, the negative aspect, or like that would. I mean, I would say mentally, like essentially in your soul, you feel like, where am I going? What am I doing? Where do I have to go? And I would say that I mean, I think that's important to mention. That, and I know that I am not the first person, and I won't be the last that feels like this. That you plan your life. This is my goal, because I would say the future is what motivates you, right? They say, like, is there's a you have two people, right? Two guys, two examples. Like, there's one guy that's been in prison for 5 years, but he knows he'll be free tomorrow. And then you have another guy that is free today, but he's going to go to prison for 20 years tomorrow. So who's happier, right? The guy that's about to be free, or the guys that, I mean, it's about to be free, but he's in jail, but the guy that is free and it's about to. So I would say the expectation is what motivates you, what gives you strength in your soul. And when you, of course, I mean, you move to the United States because deep in you feel like, well, I think this is where I will be able to grow, where I will be able to progress. But at that first step, I would say is a really strong, I mean, a really heavy step. I mean, like, okay, I gotta like delete everything. I mean, this is not even a language that I speak. I don't speak the language. There's cultural differences. There's a way to be that is different. Chicago is beautiful, but it's cold in winter. You're not used to that. I'm used to have. I rarely would buy like long pants. I would always wear shorts or bathing suits because I was living in an island. So it changes your life in a way that, well, we got to start from zero. Now where am I going?
Yeah, it's sorry, Chris. It's beautiful, because I felt you were talking about my journey. So yeah, exactly. It's like I always mention I was born twice. The first time when I was in Iran, Shiraz. The second time when I arrived here, start from scratch, zero. And it's true. We have a different background, different reason to leave our country. Maybe our journey path is different. However, I believe all of us, we start a new journey when we arrive here. Yeah, and it was very interesting. I really felt you were talking about my journey, and yeah, Chris, when I was in Iran, uh, beside you always have an American dream. Okay, because the Hollywood movies, because of basketball teams, or you are really obsessed to visit United States. But I had a plan. Okay, I was a political activist, and I was fighting for democracy, human rights, my people. Okay, and my friends. Okay, I had a goal. I had a plan. Suddenly, okay, it was like it's a harsh cut, snip your life. Then I found myself here with language barriers, kind of cultural barriers, and started from scratch. And even you mentioned, I'm from kind of South Iran, so over there it's always hot and dry and hot. And I arrived here in Chicago, it's very cold. So I'm from a tea culture. Then people do not drink tea here. So yeah, I try to adjust myself as soon as possible and just give up on some aspect of my life, maybe my past life. So let's just start drinking coffee. Since 2012, I started drinking coffee, no more tea. Or how I justify the cold weather for myself. I said, okay, Ali, you're lucky because I live in a very hot city in Iran. I experienced that hot weather. Now I have a chance to experience a very cold weather here.
Yeah. Carlos, I'm gonna journey to a few of those points, but I wanted to ask a couple of questions on the front side of what you shared, and you were using the word escape, and I think one of the things that we just have to dispel at the outset is people aren't making that journey that is dangerous and exhausting just because they want to and they think it's a good adventure to go on, right? It's often on the other side of really traumatic experiences, in really difficult times that are sort of forcing people to migrate. And so I wanted to, if you don't mind, if you could, just spend a minute or two just helping us understand sort of, you went to college and then sort of you graduated accounting and business and, sort of launching your sort of career. And not too far into that, sort of were met with the reality of having to sort of choose between that and sort of starting over, as you just alluded to. Can you share a bit more about that with us?
Sure. So I graduated. I'm 26 right now. I graduated when I was 21. I spent a couple of years working in Venezuela related to what I studied. My parents left earlier. My family left the country before that because I decided I wasn't the last. I have family there still, but so I tried running a business in Venezuela. Eventually I couldn't keep it running there for different circumstances. So you go from, you study a career because you want to work on that, right? I mean, you're attracted to different fields of the knowledge because, well, this is what I want to work. I mean, if I study accounting, it's because I want to be an accountant. Those that study medicine because they want to be doctors, etc. Related to what I was talking earlier, you plan your life on, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I am going to work. And then you get that snip, you cut your life. You got to start from zero here in the U.S. Naturally, when I first got to the U.S., it also takes a time before you get to the U.S. and you become, you get allowed to work. So during that time, you try to survive as you can. So, when that transition between being in Venezuela, being an accountant, so, when you graduate, I would say that's one of the happiest day of your life. I feel like everyone would more or less remember the day that you graduated. You're like, okay, I made this. I went through 5 years of university, college. We call it university in Venezuela. That's the word I tend to lean to that word. So you graduated, you have that title, and you feel like, okay, I have this. But then you migrate, and you feel, well, this that I value so much, that kind of, it's not like necessarily identifies me as a person, like this is me, but kind of, it's part of me now. I am an accountant. This is what I am. So not being able, I would say, like that skill transition between Venezuela, or that certification, like recognition, that is also, it is frustrating at the beginning, but I would say, right now, I am working right now, that's what I'm doing. I am an accountant right now, and I'm working to, the work that I'm doing is related to what I studied. And I think that's a positive thing from the United States. I don't think there is a lot of countries in the world that you start from zero, and at some point, you are able to actually work on what you studied. And I think that's a great thing. That's a positive thing. And I would say that's related to the universalism of the United States, the diversity, the freedom that gives it. You're free to do whatever you want in a way, but yeah, that freedom that gives you the capacity of being able to do that thing that you want, that career where you want to grow up. When I first got to the U.S., I started working before I could, because that's the thing. You feel like, what's the first step that I got to do? You get here to the U.S. I don't want to sound that romantic, like, well, I left my family. I think we already spoke about that. So, okay, now I am here right now. What do I have to do? So I would say that's the hardest step. the first step is the hardest step. Like, where do I have to go? Who do I talk to? Who is the? I mean, I think that the networking value. I mean, okay, the networking value, but there's no network because you're here by yourself. So I started working in a restaurant, and that's when I thought that I think I know I have some good English, but then you struggle in the restaurant because it's funny because and I know I'm not the only one dealing with it, but we all migrate and I started working in a restaurant. I don't know. I guess other people would start in other work, but normally you end up starting in that type of work, that types of work. So you wouldn't really understand uh, what people are telling you. They ask you for something and you bring in something on like, no, this is not what you want. And like, oh, yes, yes. You only say, I mean, when we all migrate, you tend to say like yes to everything, like, oh, yes. And then you bring the thing that you weren't supposed to bring. And they're like, no, this is not what I wanted. Yeah. Oh, yes. And it's funny because and I think that funny aspect of the migration, it's also, give richness to your life, that exotic aspect. And I would say that also helped me a lot to live my life, to develop my life, to grow, to move up on in the United States.
There's a few things there, and I want to borrow your advice to us, and that is to be yourself, because I want to go back to the extent you're comfortable, because I do think you're being very humble, and I appreciate that. I admire it. And there's a lot to that, and we'll get to the loss of work credentials and the trauma associated with these things and the lack of dignity, all incredibly profound. But I do want to I want to go back a little bit, because I think one of the things that is really profound is the resilience that you display in going through being an entrepreneur in Venezuela, and then just the harsh reality of, now I got to take whatever cash job I can in this sort of country of opportunity named United States, which I'm not being negative on the United States at all, but that's just the reality of the legal systems and the asylum process. But I want to go for, if you're comfortable, and just ask you to lean a little bit more into the specifics of you,
Okay.
Carlos, in your individual story, because we can pan out a little bit and see the generalities.
Okay.
But I want you to share the pieces that I think really sort of embody how strong you are and how strong your family is, to go through and not lose sight of your passions and dignity. So if you don't mind, help us understand. So you graduate, you start a business, and then you're not able to do that. You don't have to get into any more detail than you're comfortable getting into. But I do think it's important for folks to understand that this wasn't just the business isn't going to work anymore, so let me go start a business in the United States.
Correct.
You know, so help us understand a little bit more specifically, and then I'd love to talk more about your sort of career here.
Okay. Yeah. So when I graduated, I did an internship, so a short internship in Caracas, in the capital of Venezuela, in a electric engineering company. I work in HR, payroll, and administration. And then I started a small business in a different city called Barquisimeto. Because my thought was my entrepreneur, you say like humbling. Well, I mean, I saw an opportunity to create a business in Barquisimeto. So I decided to import tires and batteries for cars. That's the business that I run. And I was doing pretty well. I felt like, okay, this is my way. I mean, I'm making money, of course. But I felt like, well, this is a way to contribute to the Venezuelan economy. There's people that want their cars, people that want their batteries for the car, people that want their tire for the cars. Um, so if, at some point, and I would travel a lot between Barquisimeto and Margarita. I mean, because I had my grandparents there, I had family there, aunts. So I would travel. We constantly traveling from Barquisimeto to Margarita, sometimes Caracas, because it's the capital, and I have friends there. So I would visit them. So that would be like my three main cities: Barquisimeto, Caracas, and Margarita. Some point, I mean, when the I don't know if I okay, you say like as long as how comfortable I feel like talking
Yeah, you
about.
don't. If you are uncomfortable, you don't have to
I
go
mean,
to the details.
I also,
Yeah, you don't have to go into any
it's
details. You don't-
okay. I mean, it's basically, so at some point there were general elections happening in Margarita. Not general, like regional elections. So that's the government. They say states. Well, it's states in Margarita, but they call it regional elections in Margarita. In that moment, so you have the usual thing, or the candidates would always be the one that is supports the government, the actual government, and the opposition. And they end up condensing a little. This is the candidate that will go to the opposition. So I felt the necessity to contribute and support this candidate because, and I know I turn a bit politic here, and also my grandfather was, I mean I have family there. I have family in Margarita, so I felt like, well, I want to contribute them. I want to. This is an indirect way to help them. I mean, I had my business been running. I felt this is the way I want to help them. So that's when I would say that's when an issue happened. I don't really want to go that deep into that. Not because I don't want to sound like raw or like it might be.
Here's
But
the piece. Let me just, because here's the reason I asked that that question, and you don't have to share anything else to that. I think one of the things important for folks here and anyone in listening to understand is, right, unless you come from a vantage point of understanding the issues around diaspora and why people leave their homes, some people might encounter that and say, from a Western view, you'd say, well, you started a business, the business didn't work, just start a new one, right? Or whatever the case may be. I'm being a little bit cynical about it intentionally. And I think what you just alluded to, Carlos, is what I was sort of trying to
okay.
get to, which is when someone is seeking asylum in a country, in your case here, it is because you are quite literally fleeing something, right? And there is obviously legal processes we don't have to get into, but in this case, political, right? And persecution for your political affiliations or religious or whatever the case may be. And I think that's one of the things that as a person that didn't have to go through the sort of restarting in a new country, I think it's so important for us to underscore that these are not free and open choices people are making to just say, I want to go be an accountant in the United States. It's because of immense either trauma or persecution, injustice, whatever the case may be. Correct. And that's the point I was getting at is just that these stories are beautiful, and you will get more into what you're accomplishing now and will continue to accomplish. But we call it our stories intentionally because the resilience is profound, right?
Correct.
You're dealt like a shorthand, and you got to go figure out what now.
Correct.
And I think that's. Please don't feel the pressure.
No. But I will. Yeah, I would like to then. Okay, I'll finish the idea then. So, yeah, I mean, I like what you said. I really like what you said, the diaspora and the way that it's generally seen. But in that generality, you have individual cases, individual human. I had my story. So I had my business running. I eventually had issues with the other candidate, paramilitary, like military affiliated with the government that threatened my life, and that's why I left. I mean, that's to make the long story short. But it is one person that suffered. I mean, and that's when I connect with the escape word. Like, it's not your no. I plan my life to live in the United States. No, because I'm fleeing. I mean, naturally you aim to the United States because you feel like, okay, I'm suffering this in my home country, so I gotta go. I feel comfortable going to a country that goes against or the ideas. Well, they are fighting this issue or the message that they're sending: the freedom, independency, be yourself, grow. So that's why you aim to the United States. You say, okay, I'm looking to the United States. I mean, there's a will of going to the United States once you go through this. But yeah, the thing is it would be like a natural reaction to what is going on. I mean, the escape, right? I mean, I would say, I don't know, people that are addicted to any addiction. I mean, the people that are addicted to alcohol, they found an escape in the alcohol. It's not like they're seeking it. No, there's something. There's a bigger issue behind that. There's, I don't know, stress, life. There's something down there, and they find in the alcohol an escape. I'm not saying the United States is our alcohol, but that's the metaphor I'm trying to say. It's like I mean, the big issue is still there. Venezuela is still there. The issue is still there. What is going on is still there. So, how big that issue must be? And I'm saying this is in the general talking. And you say, well, there's 100,000 Venezuelans, 10,000. I don't know what's the number right now. There was a point that was 5,000 Venezuelans every day crossing the border. So there is 5,000 people. I mean, one people times 5,000 cases that are willing to take the risk because it's a dangerous road. It's a dangerous adventure to go through that. To go through Central America, the Darien is that forest is really, really, I mean, people die sometimes in there. They don't make it. So how bad is it has to be? And that's the thing. I mean, if you're willing to like, okay, how bad it has to be at home that you're willing to like, okay, you know what? This is not working. I mean, I'm willing to give up my home, my country, my language, everything, because I feel this is better. I mean, you always go to what is better. So that's the thing. How bad it has to be at home that you're willing to go through all that for, I mean, maybe I'm like going in circles here, but that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you're willing to let go all that and start a new life from zero with what it comes with it.
Right.
And I think that's you end up developing, of course, a lot of resilience because okay, this is my new life. I don't have a house, I don't have home. I mean, those concepts that I think are essential to human life, like the concept of home, the concept of belonging. This is where I am now. I'm willing to, this is important. This is important to me. But you know what? This is so bad right now that I'm willing to give that away and pursue this. That it is more or less an abstract concept because you say, right, like the Hollywood movies, America, the freedom. Well, I am not 100% sure what am I getting to, but I need this because this is not working.
This is Chris. This is exactly that point I always mention. People who arrived here as a migrant or refugee, they are already a champion in their life. So, the only things we can give them or support them is create opportunities for them. But they don't need our help. So in that forest is one of the most dangerous zone in the earth. So people they put their life at risk to just cross that forest. So yeah, and to your point, Chris, according to UNHCR definition, who is can be a refugee or entitled to get asylum is just a fear of persecution. This is the point, and we have many shared things. I left my country because of political reasons, fear of persecution, and probably I cannot go back to my country for my entire life, because if I go back over there, I have to go back to prison again. So But uh, one thing people, cannot see it is we, we we left because of the persecution. Yeah, I always mention I had everything in Iran but hope. When I arrived here, I had nothing but hope. So, but in general, the stereotype, the pictures, media created about us, okay, it feels okay. We are nobody, or we are all of us. We are from camps. We have no educations. Okay, we are moving here to take opportunities away from Americans, which is not true. You know, and this is the message we need to send out. No, first, case by case is different. People have different reasons to leave their countries, and not all of us from camps. Okay, which is fine. In some disasters, there is a war, something, there is immediate resettlement. Okay, but we have some people like Carlos, okay, very well educated family, and he was an entrepreneur. Okay, probably you had a beautiful life over there. Then suddenly, because you got involved with with politics, and the government went after you, you needed to leave your country. So we need to change that picture, that image of immigrant refugees who are in this country. That you know that people have dignity. People already, and those people already, they are already a champion in their life. So this is one of the things and we are working on it. Let asylum seekers work here. Let's asylum, because and based on your experience again. Okay, so you came here. You started from restaurant while you were an expert in your field, and I'm glad you are working in your field now. And another thing, that other couple of things I got from your words, that this, Chris. So lack of social capital. Okay, so us, some agencies like Trellus, we can be the social capital. Lack of network, we can be that network for people to stand on their own feet. Those are the fill those gap actually is that opportunities we can provide to the migrant refugees families here.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Carlos, thank you for sharing that. I know that can be, tough, I think, to navigate and think about. So thank you for that. And one of the things we care a lot about at Trellus, and I think our communities are so much in need of is providing any sort of behavioral health services, and just a space that you can talk to people about your experiences. And so thank you for being vulnerable with us. And then I think, as people experience that, I just feel like it's important to know that may not be in the podcast forum. That's not exactly the best space for therapy, but that there's a bunch of people that are available to provide the supports, that folks might want, should they want them. Because I know these things can be heavy. If you guys are good, I'd like to maybe, Ali, we can try this together, is to lighten it up a little bit, and then we'll end with maybe one of our favorite topics. We'll talk about accounting for a little bit. I know everyone's probably excited to hear a couple of accountants talk, but I recall a couple of times. I know when Carlos, you and I first met. We met through a mutual friend.
Correct.
Ali's point is well made, and that's the reason I'm sharing this story. We met because of a friend that said, "Hey, I know this guy. He's a trained accountant, but what do you know? American businesses don't recognize experience and international degrees and all this other stuff. Hey, can you talk to him and see if you guys could find a way to provide a path, or just use your network, right? Social capital to Ali's point. And so one of the things that I just want to be clear, and we don't need to get into the details of that, but I do think it's important to speak like to all those who are in seats of influence and power that it just takes a phone call, like it takes an email that says these aren't folks that need your help because they're need some handouts. No, it is purely because the system doesn't even recognize their competency. And so if you can stand in the middle of that and say, I will use my network to say, hey, this guy, this gal, this whomever is deserving of the opportunity. Is not give them something they don't deserve, but just give them a fair shot.
Fair shot.
That's it. That's all we're asking for. And I think that is the story for folks, that the skills are unmatched. And I can speak about, being personally seeing Carlos's work. It runs circles around. If you got like 14 more of you, I'll have the best accounting squad ever. But it is really tragic. Mm-hmm. It's tragic that our business communities are just ignoring entire groups of folks because they don't fit the rubric. And I think, thank you for being willing to just stand up for that. I think it goes a long way to have someone who's in your seat and says, yeah, this is hard, and we need to do better. And I hope that's what we're able to help accomplish together. So thank you for indulging that. Ali, you got something to add?
Yeah, so I was thinking to say, first, now you have Carlos and Ali in your resume because you open so many doors to me. And I always believe, if someone else, not Chris Shu, was in my career pathway, probably my destiny, my career path would be totally different. Why, for the first time in my life in this country, I am really in my field and my position based on my passion, my background, my educational background, and thanks to you. So I many times I think about it. I think I was lucky. Honestly, it was not a systemic solution in front of my life here. I was just lucky. Suddenly, maybe karma. I don't know. I'm not believing in karma. Okay, so I met you. So tell me, Carlos. Okay, let's talk about Chris. So I know Chris. Okay, just find out. Okay, you are competent. You can do the job, and the fair shot. Okay, he provided the opportunity, and you did your best. You got the job. Okay, definitely you went through the process. It was not just based on friendship or no. Definitely you interviewed other people and you picked Carlos. Tell me a little bit about the role of some people like Chris in our life. Okay, how these people, these beautiful people, okay, can change our lives. Correct. Because there is, Chris is the only one here, but out there is many Chris's over there. Yeah, and we need them. We need them to play more prominent roles. So tell me about your experience.
Yeah, sure. So I remember when this friend that friend that we have in common, I would say he's like older Chris, right? Because Chris is Chris, but to get to Chris, I needed like
another Chris.
Another Chris. I mean, how? Because that person has to take the wheel. Like, you know what? It's not like I don't know you, but yeah, I mean, we're starting from zero. Like, you're here. Okay, I'll connect you too. So I remember the first time I was about to text Chris. I was like, I took like a whole week because I don't really know what to say. I mean, like, hey, I'm Carlos. Help me. I don't know.
So you practice, right?
I mean, I think I did like 10 drafts of how to start because this friend that we have in common, I think he sent a mail and you're like, hey, connecting you too. Bye. That's it.
Really?
Email to us,
yeah, and you like say, hey, Chris, this is Carlos. Hey, Carlos, this is Chris. I'm connecting you too. See if this works out. Bye. Okay. So I was like,
Fine.
okay. I know Chris is an accountant. I am an accountant myself. So, but that's the thing, and I would say it also took me a while to text or like to send a message to Chris. It was also because like you feel that feeling of dignity, right? Like I just got into this country. I don't. I mean, you. I would say yeah, we got lucky because you feel like it's not like I really deserve this. I don't deserve this. I mean, I just got into this country, and you feel that like I don't deserve this. I'm the migrant here. I'm looking for an opportunity, but that's how you what you're trying to figure out, like how to say, okay, it's not like hey I'm applying to no, it's like hey this is me right now. This is where I am. No, my title is I didn't graduate from an American university. I don't have work experience in American business. Um, this is me. So I would say that going through like, well, I don't know if I should. I don't know if I'm ready because that's also the thing. Like, okay, I'm gonna text him, but what is he going to demand from me? Like, I don't really know because I know in my country what they're gonna ask me because in the university you get teachers that okay I work here. This is what you have to do. This is what you have to look out. But when you are here, you're like I have no idea what is he going to. I mean, is he going to ask me like, well, let's do a test. Well, let's meet here. Well, what's from what university? What's your SAT? I don't have an SAT score. I don't know. So that I would say that's a miracle. I don't know that
Yeah, it's a
yeah, that a person
miracle.
can feel like oh my god this is oh my god I'm blushing here oh my no, but I feel like it is amazing. It is a great thing that uh, people like Chris, people like Matt, the person that connected us, exist, and I think that's a positive thing because that also motivates you to you know what this thing that was given to me, I want to give it to others, and I feel that's a positive thing. I feel like you know what, uh, because I know a lot of people that are like, well, I have this competency, I have this knowledge, but I don't know where to start. But you know what, I know a path that you can take, and yeah, and succeed or as you said, the first shot. I mean, and we're not looking for free housing, free food, free stuff. No. We just want an opportunity to be ourselves, because I feel like that also like no free stuff. That is not helping me. I mean, that is also like making me feel less useful. I'm not. I mean, am I not worthy? Am I not like able to do it? No, I am able to do this. I want to work on this. I want to work hard to get what I want, to get what I need. But I think it was uh, it was a mix of well, you gotta like go above that semi embarrassment, like hey, this is me. This is what I just got into the United States. This is what I have. This is my background. Um, uh, and then having a person to lift you up, I think that is just magical. Going from I don't know where I am. I don't know who I am right now. I don't know. I don't. I can't even speak. I don't know the culture. And having a person to lift you, I think that's a that's a jump from the floor to the sky.
So I have a question for you before you
Uh-huh.
ask me, Chris. So first, for our audience who do not know you, that Chris is very serious boss. So
Mm-hmm.
if I don't do my job, okay, easily he can fire me. Okay, emotionless. So you don't do your job, okay, gone. But tell me, tell me about what is inside you. How would you trust us? How can you see? Okay, we are competent. Okay, we can do our job. Okay, how do you get that gut to give us that fair shot?
Yeah, you Remember when I said we might cry a little bit? You guys,
It's okay. Vulnerability.
um, so I think there's two parts to that, Ali. There's the initial part that is like just a human connection, and I'll talk about you and Ali and Carlos. Um, Ali, that came by way of what seemed like casual conversations, of just watching you be who you are. Because what I believe in is not necessarily the competency at first. I believe in the person. And I believe that is really important. And I think business leaders have gotten it backwards. They've rooted so far into the competency or the technical, they've forgotten that we're people. And what you really ought to champion is people. And I think that's the first part. And then the second part is I believe when you start to get out of folks' way and they start to have a convergence of what they're skilled in or what they're trained in and what they're passionate about, and when both of those things intersect, your passions and your competency, the sky's the limit. And I think that's it's so clear in both of you. And I think the other thing that I would say is it just takes 30 minutes. Like, just have a conversation. Carlos just did a great job of talking about the sort of the stress of like drafting and 10 different emails or text messages. And then me on the other side of that, where you don't know who I am. I'm Matt's friend Chris that works in accounting or whatever. And you might just see a title and an email signature or whatever. And I think the responsibility falls on those who sit in seats of privilege that people like me and others sit in. That it is not your courtesy to reach out and support. It is your obligation. And I think that is the difference. And I think when you have people in positions of influence, like Matt, for example, that view it as their obligation to be the sort of nudge, and it changes how you view things. And the last thing I'll add to that, just really quick, because I think you speak beautifully, Carlos, about the courage it takes to send that first email and reach out and the sort of struggle. I think it's also important to tell the other side too, of the folks who might be the job providers or the business leaders. This was a 30-minute meeting at 9:00 at night in a bar.
In a bar. Yeah.
Over a PBR and
Yeah, and Estella.
Estella. And so this is not rocket science. This is just listening. Hey, let me hear your story. And then it's very evident. It's like self-evident if it's a natural fit. Because the truth is, I'm not going to be able to be a good support for everyone. And neither is Matt or the millions others like that. But you do owe it to your community to put the time in your calendars to see if it is a good fit. And I promise, if you were willing to just make the connection, work out. I know we've got just a little bit left, and first, thank you both. It's still hard to hear those things, not in a negative way, but it's sometimes you feel like you're just trying to do your part. I want to share one piece, just a bit about me. Me and you haven't talked much about this, Carlos, and then sort of talk about some exciting stuff. You use the word belonging and sort of the like the home you have when you're someplace, and then you get somewhere and you're like, do I even belong here? How do I find out where I belong? What's my village now? Mm-hmm. And I just want to open that invitation up, that if that's something that connects with folks, that, hey, like, I've been there. Like, I've been there personally. Like, you look around, you're like, none of these people would care if I didn't show up tomorrow. Like, they don't know my birthday. They don't know my favorite color. they don't know anything about me as a person, nor do they care. And that's not a negative. That's just the part of reality sometimes. But I think it's what we're seeking to do in our communities and together as friends is just open the door, that we are here to help build those sort of connections one by one, and you'll start to see some pretty cool things change as we do that. Speaking of cool things change, I wanted to talk about just some slight adjustments. You coming from the tropicals of or the Caribbean, I should say. What's your favorite season?
My favorite season, summer, 100%.
Summer. Okay.
Yeah, I love swimming. I love beach. Here in Chicago, they have a lake. Nope, not that many waves, but it's pretty cool. I love
We
it.
can make some waves for you if you want. Great Wolf Lodge has a wave. What about food? Tell us like if you could prepare or have us have some Venezuelan cuisine, what would you prepare for us?
It will probably be a cachapa. That's a corn pancake with queso de mano, or like hand cheese. I think that's its translation. It's a really soft, white, strong, salty cheese and fried pork.
Wow.
That would be the best thing. I love it. Just my
And then
favorite.
that sounds delicious. And then if you could transport some Chicago food that you've experienced to your family back in Venezuela, what would you want them to what would you want them to try?
What I would love them to try in Chicago. Well, I tried a lot of stuff. I tried the deep dish, as they say here.
What's good?
It was really good. I love the sausage.
Yeah.
I would say the deep dish because we have our own hot dog styles. We struggle with it. It's really good. I'm nothing against Chicago hot dogs, but I would say the deep dish
Deep dish.
pizza is a magical experience. Yes.
It
Good.
really is.
Yeah.
It really is. Couple other quick things.
Mm-hmm.
One of our previous guests talked about the importance of names, and
Okay.
I loved his reminder to just call people by their name, and just a reminder to get to know people individually. So I wondered if you could share a little bit, just quickly. I know you've shared a bit that you have what seems like 4 names. Just tell us a little
Yeah.
bit more about it.
So let's see. So my I say the oldest brother of my mom, he was named Carlos. He died young, so that's why I'm Carlos. And I always say Carlos like this. So I mean, when I work in a restaurant, I'm like, oh, I'm Carlos. I'm Carlos. I'll be your server. I roll the R on purpose. People, oh, you're Carlos. Well, you can call me Carlos. And it's just because people here, it's hard to roll the R. I get it. But no, it's Carlos Julio. That's my second name. My mom is called Julia or Julia, as they would say it here. And Gonzalez Castro. We always have 2 last names. So the last name of the mom is not lost that fast. But yeah, that's
amazing.
Julio Gonzalez Castro. 2 names and 2 last names. That's how we're named. We used to have more. I mean, Bolivar, one of the independency, he had like 9 or 11 names.
Oh. But I pronounced your name very well, right? Because
Yeah,
I can,
you do.
R is I can,
Carlos, yeah.
Carlos.
I didn't. And it's okay. Sorry, but-
It's okay, Chris. Don't feel pressure.
Now we talk about food. If we are free, we can go to a Colombian place here. They have delicious chicken. You never tried it before, Chris. I promise you, it's the best in town.
Yeah,
And-
we Colombia and Venezuela, they were
Yeah.
one right next to the other. So we have a lot of common like, dishes that we share. Yes.
That's great. One other quick question,
Sure.
and that is, what part of like, let me ask it this way. Music. Have you gotten into, what music do you listen to? Do you listen to like American music?
So Morgan Wallen has been listening. No, I'm kidding. No, no. I knew you were gonna get excited. No, I've been listening. No, I've been listening to a lot of country recently. I felt like, you know what?
Country
man.
country music.
I haven't listened to a lot of countries.
It's interesting. I listen to country, and my wife Amber is always,
Yeah.
why? Why do you listen to country music? I said, I don't know. I just feel connected. I like that. Yeah.
For me, it's an English listening lesson because sometimes I don't even understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because they cut the words and they say like,
They got a drawl.
yeah,
Yes, they do.
they have a funny accent. No, but I mean, I listen to a lot of. I mean, I listen to like metal rock when I take a shower, and even and there is and I also I like in Venezuela we have something called joropo or llaneras. That's like there's a lot of harp, maracas,
Yeah.
and cuatro, which is like a guitar, but instead of 6 string, it has 4. That's why it's cuatro. And I also listen. I mean, I feel. I mean, that's my little grain of sand to support. Yeah, to keep my
Culture.
culture. Yeah, I like my llaneras. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how about Fergie, my humps?
That would be.
Well, Ali, what was your favorite song back in Iran?
I you know how I like country music. I think 2012 for the first time I really listened to country music. It was, even I forgot the singer's name, so but the song name was the Shake It Girl.
Oh, Luke Bryan.
And look, Brian, yeah,
Country
because
girl.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but yeah, I listen to pop music because it's easier to understand the lyrics.
Correct.
Yeah.
I knew Ali and I would be great friends because he had a Britney Spears. He's a fan of Britney Spears back in the day, and my very first performance, and it was a lip syncing contest. I did it to "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time."
Oh, there you go.
It's just still fresh, honestly. Anytime I'm still listening to that song, it's still fresh.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Ali, I didn't know if you. I took us through our rapid fire questions. Anything else you needed to, or you had on
No,
mind or heart?
thank you so much, Carlos. You know, it was amazing conversation.
Thank you.
Honestly, it helps me remind myself that I'm not the only one. We are one. It's very amazing to find, just shared experience, and we have, because when we share the experiences, we see, okay, oh, I passed that journey. I felt, okay, Carlos is talking about my journey. So it's sometimes it's like credibility as well. Many times I doubt myself, or I lost my confidence here. And my confidence here, then I feel no, because I'm not the only one. We are one. Okay, and others have the same experiences, so I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Carlos.
Well, thank
And
you.
thank
Thank
you,
you for
Ali.
inviting me.
Carlos, we'll have you sort of round things out for us. We've talked about a lot. We talked about sort of the promise of the United States and some of the amazing things that come with that, but also some of the sad realities and the harsh realities of that journey. And we're able to share a bit about your home and your culture. But I'd love to invite you to sort of leave us with the final word of reflections and
Elections. Advice. No, I would. I went to a gala that we had recently, and I love it. Was actually a Latina woman that spoke, and she said, "Disrupt yourself before others disrupt you," something like that. Like you gotta take that first step. And I would say, I mean, the way I got to you, I kind of had to disrupt myself. I have to, like, at some point, Matt, this friend that I hadn't come, like, hey, besides being a server in this restaurant, I want you to know that I'm also good at this. This is what I studied. So, I mean, and it is naturally an awkward conversation. I feel like they say, like, to relationships, not only like marriages or friendships or boyfriend girlfriend relationship. I feel like you had to have awkward conversations to have healthy relationships. So in a way, I know I'm doing a lot of circles here, but that would be my message. Like, disrupt yourself, have that awkward conversations that are not, they're not really awkward. Like the 30-minute conversation we had in that bar, I remember, like, what are we going to speak about? Like, hey, I think you were with other Trellus. And then we sat in another table, like, hey, give me 10 minutes. I'm going to talk with Carlos 1 second. Like, hey, so tell me about your life. Okay, so I know it is hard because you're like overthinking, like, what am I going to say? How is he going to react? But like you said, just take that step, talk, be yourself. And there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help and that they want to help.
Thank you, Carlos. And thank you guys for joining us for today's episode. If you're interested in learning more about Carlos, following his journey, you can find the links to all of his socials on our website. Until next time, thank you. Thanks for tuning in to Rstories and joining the conversation. To learn more about the podcast or get in touch, you can visit us at rstoriespodcast.com or find us on social media. Rstories is recorded in Chicago and co-produced by Trellus and Flex Tech AI. We'll see you next time.